Where are we? Are these three for us? Or would you like to sit here?
That's okay. Wait, I'm supposed to bring one over. Thank you. We have one more. We have one more. Or should we share? Okay. All right. Okay, let's see. All right, welcome everyone. You're in room 18. This is session 2. Why are big companies interested in startups and SMEs? We're going to get one more mic here. I'm going to do the same thing I did earlier. So how many of you are sitting next to someone you already know? Good, move. Find someone you don't know, move next to them, say hello, exchange hellos until we get the mic thing set up. The whole idea of a conference is get to know new people. Excellent. Break the Swedish shy cycle. All right. Excellent. That's the kind of buzz you want to hear in a conference. So let me see a show of hands very quickly. How many of you came to this conference with business cards? Raise your hands. How many of you didn't? That's good. You're honest. Make sure you print some business cards because it's always nice to exchange something. And I assume everyone here has a LinkedIn profile. And if you don't know how important that is, ask someone how important that is. So again, welcome to the session. I have a wonderful panel of speakers here. We're going to talk about a lot of different topics. And I'm going to try to keep this interactive as well, like I did the previous session. So I may pick on you, or instead of me picking on you, think about questions or think about how you can plug into what's being said up here. So I'm going to you got your mic. Oh, excellent. All right. So I'm going to introduce Sanders, Lotta, and Peter. So, but I'll let you guys introduce yourself. So why don't you say a little bit about yourself and what you do, and then we'll start the conversation.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Chandra Albrecht. I'm Hungarian. I moved up 6 years ago here to Stockholm. Both of my daughters were born here, so I hope that I will learn Swedish through them. I don't speak Swedish, unfortunately. So this is my inspiration. Ericsson Garage is my passion. This is not my daily job. This is really my kind of entrepreneur's vein here. My daily job is I'm heading the research area networking technologies. So if you're interested in silicon photonics or software-defined networking or the future of IP or internet, I'm more than happy to talk about that as well. But here today, I'm really, really happy to tell the whole idea about Ericsson Garage.
Excellent. Thank you, Peter.
Okay, my name is Peter Lofgren. I work at the R&D Center in Västerås for ABB. We have some 50 nationalities there, so it's a very kind of global culture. Since 1.5 years, I'm responsible for our strategic external collaborations with both small and large companies. And my passion is now, since some weeks ago, Synerleap. That is a growth hub that we inaugurated with the Swedish king and some minister and our CEO, CTO, where we will invite and we will collect fast-growing companies, small companies directly into the heart of our R&D center.
Great. Lotta?
And I'm Lotta Ljungqvist, head of R&D for bioprocess business with ING Healthcare Life Sciences. So we develop tools and equipment for the biopharma industry or for basic research for proteins. and I happen to be head of R&D, and you should do innovative things and new things, and I happen to end up in the same chair the third time this year, this day. So doesn't really prove my innovative gene.
That's good. Very good. So the subject of this conversation is why are big companies interested in startups and SMEs? Why don't we start with Ericsson? Why don't you explain to the audience where Ericsson's mind is at in terms of innovation and startups?
As I mentioned in the morning, is that we really have to learn a lot. Our industry, ICT and networking, is changing so dramatically. Applications, devices, they're really, really, really going to tell how the networks look like. And companies, even small or big companies, they don't wait for the network anymore. So just think about the open source communities, think about what Facebook again started with Open Compute Platform or even with the Open Wireless Platform. They started to have base stations, they started to have networking gear out. Everybody can build it and everybody can use it. So we really have to understand what is the new thing which is going to drive the future growth, not just from a networking perspective, but also from a company perspective. This is why we are so interested in the startups, and especially in the early ideas, which really can secure. I'm working in Ericsson Research. We really try to have a look ahead of 5-7 years. So this is why we, with this niche of having Ericsson Garage as a platform and an open innovation platform, try to understand that where you're coming from, what you're bringing us, how we can co-create something for the future, which is related to our core business today, but also it can give us a growth as a company. So definitely co-creation, learning together is very, very important for us.
Excellent. I'll ask questions afterwards, but why don't we go just down the line, Peter? Do you want to say the same?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is that there is a huge potential in bringing large and small companies together. And to exemplify that, I mean, with one example is just the time for the innovation to be a success. During my 1.5 year, when I have been visiting incubators and small companies, I always get the question who to contact within ABB. We have a great idea, we have a great vision, and they have been struggling to find the right person, or maybe they have had 1 meeting or 2 meetings, but few things really happened. So I think there is it's a great potential to learn to know each other and therefore sit in the same innovation environment. If you do that, it's much easier to, when you come in the formal meeting, really to take the step forward in order to bring the innovation, so to say, to the market.
Great. Same question.
And I'll connect where we ended the previous session. So what's in it for us is we want to win. And to win, you need to have access to good technology and good innovation. And I think that's sort of the need for a big company. And we have a fairly strong market share in our niche. And the biggest risk you have is complacency, that you're getting, you feel you're too good. So we need to step on our toes. And I think that's sort of to get access to entrepreneurial spirit, to get access to new technology, and people and companies that are pushing development for the future. That is what we need to be able to continuously win in our marketplace. So it's a win-win.
So that's wonderful. So I heard a number of things here. I heard about winning, about getting some mind share, heard about network and technologies and innovation, moving fast. How logistically, how does this audience or those who are at home essentially learn more about what is happening within Ericsson or ABB or GE? Can you define that? Lotta, let's start with you. How do folks logistically find more about what you do and how they can plug in?
Yeah, so our initiative, this bioprocess innovation hub, we haven't even started yet. So we're just about to get started. So it's hard to learn more about that. But to get access to us and to our sort of network of innovation and technology, it's we're available on the web, of course, and we have sort of how you can get access to our scouting team and our licensing team. So that's sort of how we approach anyone that would like to come to us. And of course, we're out at these types of sessions to be open about what we're doing. And when we get our initiative more up and running, there will obviously be more interactions to be able to get hold of getting a spot in that innovation hub.
Excellent. Peter, ABB?
Yes, Sweden-U.S is the name of our growth hub, and it's separate from ABB in branding and culture. We really would like to get challenged at the ABB side from the passion and the entrepreneurial spirit in the companies. So Sweden-U.S, just to remember that, you can search on any social media platform or sweden-u.s.com. You find us, and if you are of course welcome to visit us in Västerås as well, or just contact me. We brought up the business just 3-4 weeks ago, so the facilities are ready.
Good, excellent. Ericsson?
So we have approved, and then there are a couple of Ericsson garages physically already working. So we have in Stockholm, which is up and running. We have one in Budapest, we have one in Aachen in Germany, one in Paris. And 1 week from now, we will open up in Santa Clara, new facilities, somewhere in November in Montreal, and then also in Zagreb. So there are physical spaces where you can come and you can contact us. Of course, we are also on Twitter and on the web. If you go to ericsson.com under innovation, we have on our webpage. You can read Ericsson research blogs when it comes to technologies and what we're doing there, and then how we are seeing the future. So I think one of the reasons was that create this place also, it's very important to have a network and a community, which is across the globe, to really play the platform game. So we really can have good partners all over the world, not just here in Sweden, Stockholm, but also around the globe. And then here in Sweden, October 18 is Lindholmen. We'll have an opening, and then today we just started a discussion to have a Ericsson garage also in Lund. So in Sweden, probably there will be 3 different places where we have that.
That's terrific. So I want to ask a quick question. I want the audience to also think about their own questions, and at some point raise your hands. I know technology is really important, and I know, again, the subject of this is why you're interested in startups. How do you compare technology versus people of why you're interested in the companies? Are you interested really purely in a technology area, or are you really more interested in the people behind it and what they bring to the table? And I refer to acquisitions for hire, which are short name is acqui-hire. Can you explain perhaps to the audience of where kind of the interest lies, whether it's IP or technology or people, or is it all of the thing together as one bundle, as a package? You want to start?
I think it depends on the idea, it depends on the company, or it depends on the project. I think we have to change. Ericsson is going through a huge transformation. I think the soft part is very important. DevOps, development and operations, we're getting together. The fast mover advantage, we have to understand that, and we have to be inspired and get to understand that as well much better. So sometimes we go after not the technology, but the way how a small company is really treating a certain type of technology and how they are delivering value extremely fast to their customers. Sometimes it's about technology, sometimes it's about IP, and then sometimes really would like to work with startups just to get inspiration. The Ericsson Garage as a whole concept is not about equity or acquisition. It's really about very, very early startups, get sponsorship from us, get the company, get into Ericsson, using our global reach. It's more about co-creation. It's more about another round of incubation as such.
Great.
So the exit is another opportunity for investment.
Sure. So it all plays together.
I don't know if it answers your question.
No, it does. And what about ABB? What's the premise there about what you're doing in innovation? Is it about acquisitions, or is it about creating products together?
I think it's case by case and everything in between. I think we have a venture business that acquire a few companies every year, and that we have done for long. And of course, we are looking for good people that we also have done for long. But there is a much larger potential. That is what we are seeing. And sometimes you don't really know where it can go, so to say. But when you bring the companies close to you, you will find out. And sometimes you find out that it leads to nothing. Sometimes you might be surprised that it actually leads to something much better than you thought in the beginning. And from ABB, of course, we see very important wins in bringing companies close to us. But actually, we also think that we have an excellent infrastructure. We have fantastic labs, and we are not utilizing them to 100%. So there is an easy win for the companies coming here, that they can get access to something that is unique and is not available on the market. And even if there is no whatsoever collaboration between ABB and a company, if the company gains from sitting in our environment, sooner or later it will also be a win for ABB, because it will strengthen the region and the attractiveness for people, both nationally and internationally. So it will attract people to the industry, where we see that there are a large amount of benefits not yet realized. We cannot afford to do everything ourselves. So it's for everyone.
Yeah.
So.
Lotta?
Yeah, we're interested both in technology and talent and business. So the entire range of, we have partnerships, which is truly sort of early stage technology development. We do a number of acquisitions in my space, typically one per year, where we sort of acquire businesses and fully integrate them and make sure we can sort of bring that technology into the global market. And of course, maybe we should talk a little bit about the people. So it's talent or people. One good example is the founder of one of the companies that we acquired is now working for us as GE. And that's a very tricky journey, because it was a fairly small company with about 100 employees when we acquired them. And technology has developed and thrived and sort of commercially available across the globe nowadays. It's a tricky journey for an entrepreneur coming into GE, a large company, and he still found his way. So that is sort of good talent to me, where you can sort of leverage that passion, which I think we spoke about this morning, the passion that's required and the passion for the technology, but also can make it accessible and in the global context in a large company. So that's pros and cons of that.
That's terrific. So what I've noticed over the past 5 years or so is I've noticed that corporations are becoming more and more open and accessible. Whereas in the old days, it was, I can't talk about it, this is proprietary, it's something going on internal, oh, we're already doing that. I'm finding that there's a lot more openness, and you're hearing it on this stage as well. So let me just open it up very quickly to the audience. Does anybody have a pressing question, or does anybody want to build on anything that's just been said so far? And okay, let me just come down and get you. Stand up, say your name, and go for it.
Well, hi, I'm Brian Gatashami, and my question is, being an entrepreneur or being a startup, looking at this huge company that you guys represent, is kind of the antithesis of being innovative, or, the spirit of entrepreneurship. So having that stigma, what do you do? How do you work around that? Or maybe, is it just money, or is it something else that you can offer that will overcome that?
I can start. So how do you deal with innovation in a large company and still have that creative culture and mindset? To me, it's culture, and I think recognizing that technology is the foundation of the company. And I usually say, if you're head of R&D, your responsibility is the future of the company. That puts you on your toes, I can tell you. We've done some initiatives. One that I particularly like, we did lots of brainstorming, several sessions of brainstorming, and had sort of tons of ideas, both internal ideas and ideas we came across externally. And then at some point of time, we had all these ideas. They were just sort of sitting around, and we never had time to do anything about it. So we started a technology week, which was quickly renamed to Geek Week, where we said, sort of, entire R&D, you have 1 week to do whatever you want, but you should work on the proof of concept of an idea. So instead of having this sort of long backlog of ideas from the brainstormings, do proof of concept of them. So make them a bit more mature. And that ended up being a fantastic session. We've now run it for 3 years and created lots of ideas. A number of these ideas have moved into products, generated a huge pile of IP, and extremely good culture and building the culture of creativity and collaboration across. I happen to have a very wide range of skill sets in my team, so from biology and chemistry to any engineering skills you can have. And when you find sort of the engineering team helping the chemistry team to build their own high throughput device to make their work more efficient, sort of not ended up being a product or anything, but just sort of they met and understood sort of each other's challenges, and sort of new ideas came up just about that meeting. So that's sort of one way one could work with sort of the creativity and the culture in a large pharma.
Probably a couple of words. So innovation is a perception. This is a perception game. If you look at Business Week or any big material when they talk about who are the most innovative companies, usually there are a couple of, like the first 3 is Salesforce, Apple, Google. These are like changing. This is a perception. This is how you build up a company. This is how you tell a story. This is how you're really creating that. Having said that, old traditional companies, we tend to have this issue that we are not seen innovative. It doesn't mean that you don't have creative people or you don't have innovative people. It's just much more heavy machinery. It's probably not, the perception is totally different. So from my perspective, what we can do, we just do it. So let's get the Ericsson Garage out. Let's have partnerships with university incubators. Let's get the guys and girls and projects and startups in. And then if we live up to the expectation, and then we create some value from this, then we are going to be seen innovative. The rest is really a huge, big corporate process management kind of things, which is either could surface up and you don't have to explain it, or it doesn't surface up and then you have to explain it. So I think it's very important that you do it and then you make sure that you create value, because that's the whole point. So it's really a perception game, a branding perception game, PR as well involved. It's not just us who are really technology savvy people. I really had to realize that my biggest friends now for Ericsson Garage is branding and communication department.
It's
I'm
true.
not kidding.
Yeah, it's true.
Just to be successful outside.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you won't even notice that we have this.
Peter, any thoughts on that?
I think entrepreneur spirit in the big corporations, actually a lot is really possible to do. And just to mention what we have done with Sweden-U.S, I mean, ABB, I think we are very good in executing R&D, and it may be not always the fastest, but we are good in doing it. But with the entrepreneur spirit, things can happen really fast, and there are so much muscles. And the decision for us to bring up Sweden-U.S, it was only 2 months away or 3 months away from now. So once you have the vision and you can promote it and sell it internally, the entrepreneur skills are very valuable within the big corporation.
Yeah, I asked this question of the previous session, and let me just see a show of hands. How many of you find the value of hearing from corporations about what they do, how they do it, how they support the entrepreneurial spirit? How do you find that to be valuable? Okay, you do. How many of you wish there was more of it? Okay, so specifically, maybe again, just some feedback, a little bit of a dialogue. Somebody stand up and tell me specifically, what more would you want to hear from corporations and what they do with startups? Does anybody have a specific idea? A specific thought? Okay. And say your name and...
Hey, I'm Neda Nordin. I'm working with innovation, organizational innovation and sustainability. And I'm deep into this topic of collaboration between startups and, and large companies. And on one hand, we see that for startups, it's rather cumbersome to reach a contact point in the corporations. That was very well communicated last year in many innovation forums. So one question is to make sure very visible how startups can reach certain people for bringing their ideas. And another question would be from the company's side, how to make sure to develop the structure and system through organization across the functions and departments to bring this culture of startups so that startups are not just acquired and put in isolation and they do innovation and that's it. Thank you.
Who wants to tackle that one? So first, contact points, which was kind of a part of the question I asked earlier, which is how do people learn more about this? Are there specific contact points in each of your organizations?
So I think contact points, and I think everyone has sort of a contact point on the webpage and how you can approach. And what I have a specific team assigned, which I call strategic technologies that explore new technologies across the globe. And they're out scouting, and they're also the team that sort of evaluates technology that people approach us with. And I claim that we're quite efficient in giving our feedback on that technology. We want to be, we want to understand a little bit. So maybe a first step is sort of non-confidential information. And then we quickly want to say, do we think this is within our field and interesting for us? Or is this something outside the field and go and look for someone else? So the quick answer is important early on. And then if the process continues, that can take a while. And I know that people are a bit frustrated about that. But if we're really serious about something, we want to explore and evaluate and hopefully test it, and both sort of test the technology and test the people and the passion.
So internal to your organization, do you have a way of approaching entrepreneurs with an entrepreneurial mindset? How do you work internally with your culture? Because it is a large place. You're right. It's bureaucratic. There's lots of pieces, and things move at a different pace. But how do you connect with this fast-moving mindset? How does that work internally?
We can probably improve, recognizing that we are part of a big company. But I think sort of this initiative, sort of opening up, is one way to help and facilitate that, and to get. One thing that's been a hurdle in the past, that we don't really have a test ground, a test bed for testing new technologies where we can let entrepreneurs or startups to come in. And I think that's what we're trying to address now, sort of where we can easily access it and easily, without sort of
disrupting everything,
yeah,
like a sandbox.
Disrupting everything, yeah. So to speed up things, really.
Yeah. Does Ericsson have a sandbox for people to play?
Ericsson Garage?
Yeah. Is that the whole idea of Ericsson Garage?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the whole idea, to being an open innovation platform, an incubation platform.
Right.
So you can come and contact me or contact us. And then, as I said, it's a platform. It's a physical platform, but also it's an innovation platform. I'm heavily working to get partners, and then also, of course, complementers, which are you or the incubators or the VCs, to work this. And we really would like to utilize on our global reach what we have and our expertise. We can talk also about access to things like the new technology, which is about 5G testbed, or I don't know if you've heard about their urban ICT arena in Stockholm, in Kista. We will have an outdoor sandbox testbed where you can try lots of different things. And Ericsson Garage...
Beyond Pokemon Go and all these
exactly.
things? Okay.
Pokemon Go++.
Okay.
Exactly. So, and then this Ericsson Garage is going to be connected to this. This is an environment where IBM and Cisco and us, and then KTH and others put together really a sandbox for testing out new technologies there. So,
is there crosstalk between ABB and GE and Ericsson Sandbox? Is Is there
have started.
collaboration of some sort happening there too? Or am I forcing it?
More and more.
More and more, yeah.
Okay.
I think between Ericsson and ABB for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are.
We are great partners in the 5G for Sweden initiative, and then I hope that with GE we will start.
We have a couple of initiatives between us, and I think we also recognize that there are more. So what's happening in which we haven't really spoken that much about yet, the digitalization of all the businesses across, which I think is something we will share, and that's also an initiative that we probably can collaborate on, because there will always be sort of one space for each of us, and that will be an important step for the future, to figure out how we work and what's the technology and what's the business model for that.
Events like this are a chance for communicating, receiving input, and then ultimately, putting this into some format where people feel like they're receiving not necessarily a curriculum, but receiving the education. Are you finding that you're doing more and more of that from your own groups to essentially start educating the entrepreneurial communities, to start letting them understand what your criteria even is, what your problems are? Are you each doing more and more of those things? Peter, do you want to say something on that, on ABB?
Yeah, I think actually a weakness is maybe not to come in contact with ABB, but the weakness is the next step. And often, I mean, the small company really would like to have all the decision makers from the big company when they serve their ideas, but what we then find out is that we are too far away from each other, because
physically?
No, I mean in the mind, the small company, ABB thinks they really do not understand the industry, so to say, the requirements, what is required in robustness and the global market and everything like that. So ABB kind of loses the interest, and you never pass that kind of hurdle. So therefore we need to educate each other a little bit also, and also ABB understand the mindset of the entrepreneurs in order to reach a success. I think this with educate each other is very important, and that's also why we are opening up our growth hub, so we can educate each other by the coffee machine, not in the formal meeting rooms.
Great. Any thoughts on that?
I 100%
Education?
agree. No, it's 100%. I think we have to learn more.
Okay.
This is a totally different pace and totally different operating system, how the startups are working. And then we really have to understand how fast and what kind of decisions they need to move on. So.
Yeah, hi, I'm Adam Edström with the Creo Swedish ICT. Specific question to Ericsson. You tried this before.
Yes.
The Ericsson Ventures, I think it was, late 90s.
Yes.
That was not really successful.
Yes.
What's different this time?
First of all, I wasn't there. So it wasn't my idea. So I think that's a big difference. No, just to be a little bit more serious. So I've heard this, and especially from old colleagues. I started quite, so I also have 17 years with Ericsson, but I haven't been part of that. I think the big difference is that this is niche. This is not about ventures. I'm not talking about venture capital. I'm talking about Ericsson Garage, an open innovation platform where we will do sponsorships. So we can give money, but I don't think so that money is the real issue for startups and for us. What is the real issue is that, do you really have the pain point, or do you really understand our pain point? Do you really have the right marketing strategy and then business strategy? This is what we can verify. This is what we can learn. This is what we can be inspired. So the whole Ericsson Garage concept is not about investment. It's not about equity. It's not about making business from start. It's really get inspired by each other, try to co-create. So you can see this as an innovation platform using, again, the global reach of Ericsson. Now we have 8 places. Hopefully we can have somewhere in South Africa, and then probably India, and then in China or South Korea, Japan. And then we will really have a very nice community of Ericsson garages, which is really fostering the innovation. The other thing which is big difference is that the dot-com boom really happened because the whole industry, investors as well, I'm sorry to say that, they were extremely biased towards one technology. Today, for Industry 4.0 or whatever you call it, the industry revolution, what we have, the silos totally disappeared. So there is no bias towards one technology. We really have to start to understand life science. We really have to understand cloud robotics and then how Boliden is doing the mining. Otherwise, our technology won't be useless. And then we will be out of business. So technology, business-wise, these silos disappeared. So we start to talk about co-creation and co-innovation, but we might be competitors in 2 years from now in different fields. But until we figure out who is doing what and then where we can be faster, I think we really have to leverage on us. Otherwise we won't even to get there. So I think this is the big difference. If I answered your question.
Stand up and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Joseph Lahoud, and I've started up some companies and invested like small money in some startups. And I think the biggest problem you will have with the entrepreneurs is to gain their trust. Mm-hmm. Because many like me, I don't know, this is like totally new for me. It's more like, okay, how will we cooperate? Can I come in with my ideas and openly talk about them? Then I'll destroy my whole chance of like going somewhere with, intellectual property or whatever. Mm-hmm. Or if I have an open idea, can I talk with you guys and, do something open sourced or whatever and have access to your labs? I think mostly for us who already have companies and have ideas and things like that, we already have those offices and those things. So we think like, what can you give us? Or what? I mean, I would only come to the biggest companies if I would have an idea which is already done and try to sell it in. But maybe I think you should, I think more as when I was a student, I would like to have these kind of playgrounds where I could go and learn things. But the biggest problem is the trust. And how can the cooperation become? I mean, would you invest money in my company, or would you hire me, or would you acquire my whole company? What kind of?
So maybe we should explain a little bit on how this is run. And
but before you do that, can I just put a caveat in there? Because I think the word trust is a huge issue. And I said this in the previous session. I want to repeat it again if you don't already know this. The nature of everything that we do, regardless of whether you're an investor or a venture capitalist, corporate venture, doesn't matter. Your family, your relationship with your dog, doesn't matter. It all starts with relationship, friendship, and trust, okay? Exactly. And it's not a one-way street. You do not gain trust by just basically saying, you need to trust me, believe me. Who do you hear saying that all day long? Believe me. We won't go there. But it's all about that. It's a two-way street though, right? Give me something, then I trust you. That's not the way it really works in real life, okay? It's a two-way street. The onus is on both sides to develop trust. But the reality is the corporations have something that we all ultimately want. From an investor's perspective, I want their interest in my portfolio because at some point I would hope that one of them matches their internal interest, their strategic interest, and they'll acquire it. And most companies get a liquidation event through a M&A activity. Very few go to IPO. So I just want to put that caveat in there before you answer it, which is it's a two-way street. Entrepreneurs, corporations, they must both figure out how to do that. But maybe you could address the trust question somehow? Any of you? Go ahead, please, Lotta.
Well, I just wanted to start. So you have to make sure you have control of your IP. And I think that's something we recognize truly. And because we're not interested in any company that don't control their IP. So what we want to achieve in our test bed, we're actually creating a separate legal entity. So it's not GE as a company, it's a separate sort of legal entity that runs this test bed. And it will be sort of slots that each company can use. And it's an industrial environment where you can test your equipment or your biology in an industrial environment for life science. And it's sort of each slot is closed, so you can do it closed, but then it has open space to it as well. So you can talk whatever you want to talk about at the coffee machine and then gain, but it's up to you how much information you want to share. So I think that's sort of the basic foundation is you need to control your IP.
So I think, again, we use this word a lot in what we do with my angel group, is we talk about managing expectations from both sides. So we educate one another and we manage expectations, and you're all big boys and girls. You know what your limits are. If you speak about your expectations and agree on something in principle, then you move forward. If you don't, and you don't want to have a relationship, then you don't basically do any of these things. Do you, either one of you want to talk about that as well? Relationships and trust?
So for me, I really wanted to build and trying to build, and this is the vision, is that based on trust, partnership, and transparency. I think these three are coming very hand in hand. So I will tell you very frankly, very quickly, no, I cannot help you, or this is not the place where you come. This is not Ericsson Garage. It's not for you. If you're after M&A, please contact this and that person. They are the ones who are working with M&A. So I think it's very, very important to see this. Other than that, I totally agree. This is about managing expectations, but we have to be extremely open, transparent to each other from start. So you have to clearly say that what is your issue, why are you coming to Ericsson or Ericsson Garage, and then I will be very, very honest, promise, very, very honest. We learned this, I think, Condor. So I will be very honest with you, and you can buckle up your seatbelt.
Nice. Yeah, very good. I like that.
I think trust is kind of the key word. I mean, it's not an easy decision for a big global company like ABB to open up your heart of your R&D. So I mean, it's also the same from our side, so to say. But then, I mean, companies coming in, they have their IP secured. I think that is the baseline, and there is no forced cooperation whatsoever. I mean, it's about learning to know each other and see, I mean, after building trust, where you can take it, if you can take it further, so to say.
One comment on trust. I think you rarely take decisions based on data. You take decisions based on trust. That's my experience.
Yeah, that's true.
Thanks, Fuzzy. My name is Tanya Marvin Horowitz. I'm Capital A Partners venture capital fund here in Stockholm, but also in the U.S. Just a question for the GE and ABB folks. I know you guys both have corporate venturing arms in the U.S., and just curious if with the efforts that we're speaking about today, if you are collaborating with them in any way. Obviously they work with young entrepreneurs as well. I know that they do invest perhaps at a later stage, but just curious your thoughts on that.
Yes. So yes, we do collaborate with our ventures arm, and it's sort of this initiative actually addresses one of the pain points we have when we get approached by entrepreneurs or any innovators, that the technology is not mature enough. So we typically end up with, okay, very interesting, but we need you to do this and this and this and that and that and that and that and that. And when you're done, come back to us. And now we also want to add, okay, and by the way, if you want, we have this facility here where you can actually do that work. And if you want, we could do it together. Or if you want, you can do it independently. So that's sort of a way to address and to help and build that maturity of the technology. And that will help both us and the entrepreneur.
Of course, we cooperate with our venture arm as well. And I mean, we make due diligence maybe of a few hundred companies every year, and we invest just in 3 or 4 or 5 or something like that. So it's room for a lot of more things to do together. And I think the Synoleap platform is one way there as well. And let's see if we also open up all over the world, or where we take it in the next. In the next version, but we are not doing this just for a Swedish startup. I mean, any startup worldwide is welcome to move in, so to say.
Hi, my name is Robert, and I'm an investor and entrepreneur, I guess. And my question here is, could you fill in what would be your greatest catch, so to speak? What are you looking for in terms of entrepreneurs? Would you like guys with brains or business or perseverance or whatever? What is your dream entrepreneur or dream business venture that you'd like to? I mean, it's obviously a question about what you've got and what they've got, right? So if you're a guy with brains, you need someone with muscles. If you catch my drift here, it's so you know exactly what you have, and that would be interesting to see what you, in that case, were looking for. That's my question. Thank you.
Aren't everyone looking for a high-value innovation with low risk? Isn't that the...
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to point out again, none of you are corporate venture capitalists, so you're not looking to acquire anything. But maybe just to follow up on that is, what are the qualities of the startups that would be attractive to the Garage or to ABB or to GE? What are the, you said low risk and attractiveness. Maybe you could just a little bit more on
scalability.
detail? Okay.
Lots of technologies that we look upon, they've been tested and maybe for one particular case or actually in small scale. And can you do it in a broader sense? So that can you really serve a global market? Can you produce the product to the volumes required and to the cost required? So scalability would be one.
From our side, then I must remember you here that it's not purely that ABB needs to make a win. We would like companies that can benefit from our infrastructure. We have robot labs, we have energy lab, high power lab, high voltage lab, and that kind of infrastructures. So that is what we are looking for. If companies do not benefit from there, they can sit in other environments, so to say. And then, of course, ready to scale and take the global leap, because that is what ABB also can contribute with. We know what it requires to be in the industrial automation and power global market, and what the customers really require. So we can help bring these companies out in the world, so to say. I think that these are a few important things. And IP needs to be there. I think that makes sense, else it's hard to sit in the same environment.
So from my perspective, I think it's very important. We talk about scalability and we're talking about win-win. I think it's very important that the value, it's a very, very clear value creation for not just for us as a corporation, for Ericsson, but also you have a potential customer or somebody is really interested in this. I think for me, it's very important to have new type of applications. We are very communication or connectivity savvy, but they are application on top of us. Because then it gives us, again, two things. We can learn what is really the next execution environment for the future. And second, we also get inspired and try to understand how we can be a little bit higher up in the value chain, not just talk about the connectivity. So I think the new type of devices, new type of applications, which are very connectivity savvy, for that's a dream. But there's no technology boundary here. So it's very hard to say that we worked with the music industry, we worked with the auto industry, we worked with the finance industry, we worked with the retail industry, we worked with mining industry in the Garage now. It's really about that how we can leverage our current assets and how we can really get inspired and get something which is about more from the application and new applications devices side.
Yeah. Good afternoon. My name is Miles Dean. This is a great forum. I've been coming here every year for the last 6 years, so I always have something to say when I'm here. Anyways, this year I'm here with a colleague of mine, and we have an innovation that is sort of like we're in a design phase right now, and we're trying to determine whether we should go to private venture capital tied with state ALMI investment money, or turn over to an already established global company that does this stuff all the time and is just waiting around to pick up something like this. It's a green tech machine where we are offering services for disinfection and cleaning, portable. And what's hard to do is, okay, that doesn't match anything up here. Mm-hmm. How do we find a match when it comes to services? And if you have a service provider, for example, and we want to have a partnership that way, we have a machine, but that we don't really want to give away right away. So what are your ideas when it comes to partnerships from that end of the spectrum?
And maybe you can make your answers in a generic sense, or if you can specifically address his question, that would be great. Or is it different groups that deal with this?
No, I can start with that. So these are the things that probably you can test with all three of us. I mean, just to book a meeting with all three of us or the teams with us, and then try to understand more what you're after, because this is not just about the technology. I mean, you in your pitch now, in this 30 seconds pitch, I can imagine that you would like to do as a service, disinfection as a service, or you would like to do something which is you sell a product. But definitely you will have a huge issue how to manage this connected, huge, I don't know, device things. So operations will come into the picture, and so on and so on. So how you or which company can help, it's really probably Ericsson can help, who is managing complex system, which is called telecom networks, but probably can help some life science company or green tech company who are really in the production. So I think just dare to go there. It doesn't hurt to have a couple of meetings, get inspired, and get to understand what they can offer, and then you make your decision, because nobody will make your decision for you, that's for sure. So you have to collect, you have to be inspired, and then you make your decision. I think we are changing also, Ericsson and all the companies, we are changing from a business perspective as well. How new business models we have to do. I think none of us, we try to get rid of the product and software and hardware sales, and then try to get into some new kind of revenue stream. So, and then these kind of things can inspire us also. Think about that. I don't know.
So every year...
I was talking about you or in your behalf.
Okay.
As well.
Would you like to add to that?
I can just say that, I mean, we are looking for companies in adjacent technology spaces to where we are active. And there might be room for synergies that you might not think of from the start. And then, as I said, if your company can benefit from the infrastructure we have chemistry labs as well. I have no idea what you would benefit from. But if you can benefit from us, we have great partners that we are collaborating with because ABB really we cannot contribute with a lot, but the infrastructure actually we can, because it's not within the innovation system today. It's a lot of nice business coaches and I mean you can get any kind of training, but the infrastructure can be very hard to find at the open market. So we are collaborating with the business coaches and let's say automation region or Robotalen or this kind of other players in the system. So like you say, I mean, come and visit us and let's see.
Lotta, do you have anything else to add?
I represent GE, and I don't know if you know GE, General Electric. That's a very sort of broad technology base in that company. So let's talk, and I can hopefully sort of help you and guide you to find a colleague of mine that's even more sort of fit for purpose for that discussion.
So I want to make sure I reserve the last 15 minutes for some other pressing things that you want to talk about. We all want to talk about. But one of the things I wanted to add to this is every year I go to a conference, which is essentially a reverse showcase for corporations. I don't know if you've heard of such a thing. So instead of entrepreneurs getting up on stage, corporations get up on stage. And like I said before, more and more, in fact, some of your colleagues are there as well. It's called Global 1000. And it's run by the National Council for Entrepreneurial Tech Transfer. And it's usually Americans that end up there, but a lot of other countries end up coming there as well. So the idea is put corporations up on stage, let the audience know what is pressing on their minds. And actually, I have a lot of investor friends who go, and one of them, who is a European investor, he's gone and listened to the corporations talk about what they want. He's built 3 companies, and he sold all 3 companies to them in a very short period of time because he knew exactly what they were looking for. So at the end of the day, if you want to be keep everything to yourself and you want to be secretive for whatever reason you want to be, there's no way that they can read minds. And there's no way I, as an investor, can read your mind either. So you have to build relationships. And the only way that I've built relationships with some of their colleagues that come to these conferences is my face is familiar. I go back every year and they get to know me. And I don't expect business right away. I don't expect business ever. I'm really just there to meet some really cool people and listen and see if there's some connections I can make. Which comes back to, again, this idea, because it seems like, again, more corporations are becoming more and more embracing of openness and innovation, trying to find new business models that make a lot of sense. So maybe you could tie this all together. We've talked about education, we've talked about the garage, we've talked about things that we're looking for in terms of IP and infrastructure. Infrastructure is really such a valuable thing. Maybe you can just tie this all together into a big picture of how you like to connect with people on a general sense. Do you like to have people immediately reach out to you with very specific targeted things? Do you prefer that they approach certain channels? How do your corporations become a little bit more, I guess, embraceable and more soft, so that people can, I know your emails are out there and everything, but maybe you can just talk a little bit more about the softer side of the corporations, how you make yourselves available also. Does anybody want to target that one?
Yes, that's a good question, but I think that is really the weak spot. I think, as said, it's you can always come in contact with ABB in a lot of ways, and we are really trying to be professional to come back and to find the right people. You can contact us on the web or anything, or you can dial our what you call Vexel, the switchboard. But I think that is not the weak part. It's really to build this trust. That's the whole point, and that's why we really open up this environment. I think we don't need to know when a company, so to say, comes, what it will lead to. We are very open-minded here and would like to give it a try. So if you are eager really to come into the environment also, there will be so much possibilities in finding the right people. We have now 4 companies joining our environment, and I mean, then they have all met with our CEO. They know people inside because they are in. So then you don't to be so stressed about finding the right people because you are in with one foot. That's the step. You need to take the chance. I mean, are you ready to give it a try or not?
That's good.
So
I like that.
I think that is a new way for us.
I'll come and visit.
Come in first, and then you find the right people.
Excellent.
It might take 3 months. You don't know, but
true.
Time will talk for you.
And Ericsson has a physical space where people can come to, right?
Correct.
So, you're there, or your colleagues are there?
Yeah, I'm there, or my colleagues are there. In different places, but also you have to be careful with your wishes because they might come true. So
that's the title of another talk.
So if you really open up the door and then you come, I mean, you really have to live up to the expectations, and then you really have the commitment. Then you're really taking good care.
That's right.
So it's also, as I mentioned in the morning, my biggest kind of challenge is scaling. How you scale. So this is why we are, when it comes to Ericsson Garage, I try to have a strategic relationship with university incubators like Skydeck Berkeley, or with KTH Innovation, or Chalmers Ventures, or Things here in Stockholm, or hopefully other places. And so try to get a funnel, a little bit more structured funnel, because we can be open. I'm extremely happy to have you there. Of course, I will be very open, as I promise, and very upfront how I can help. But we definitely need some kind of structure. So this is not just about a simple we open up the gate, then we have to live up to the expectations, because then we go back to the trust. I mean, if you will have very bad experience with us, you come to us, we will have very good coffee in Ericsson, and then 2 times, but we really don't get anywhere, and then you still don't have a yes or no, or just only maybe, and next time, then
I agree.
It's just not gonna happen.
It all has to feed together. Lotta, do you have some thoughts?
A comment again on trust, I guess. One way to gain trust is to do something together. I think we're all very busy. Both sort of an entrepreneur is very busy because time is pressing, and big companies, we tend to be busy as well. So it's sort of spending time on social calls, that might be fun, but we don't really have time for that. So can we get to something where we actually do something together? And to me, it is, how do you gain that proof of concept of that innovation or that technology? And that's way sort of, maybe you can do that in a way which is, you can explore the technology without committing to a marriage.
Yeah.
And that's a way to establish that trust. And if that then pays off, you have a journey.
I think this is a unique time that we're in. Like I said, in the past 5 years, I've noticed a lot more openness from the corporations. It's a really unique time. And I would definitely take the offer, the opportunity to connect with the corporations and take that leap. Because at the end of the day, as they all said, if they can't build the rapport and the relationship and manage the expectation and have a positive relationship with you, then a piece of that goes away, and it doesn't really help their companies that much at all either. Let me push this back out to the audience. Entrepreneurs, how many? Great. And others are investors and science and interested folks. Okay, let me push the question out to you, and somebody volunteer to answer this. How are you making an effort to build a trusting relationship with them? How can you build a trusting relationship with them? What are you willing to do? Somebody stand up and answer the question. They've offered, look, you can have coffee, you can go to the garage, you can go and visit. Who's offering, what do you offer to create a relationship with corporations? Say your name and your affiliation.
I'm Ylva Skog. I have a consulting company called Integrate Strategy, and I'm a strategy advisor related to sustainability. And I think one take on this could be to focus more on the problems that you want to solve, problems that are really important for the world, and to sort of gather people around themes of problems instead of focusing so much on the sort of solutions. And I think that could be a way to sort of collaborate in trust about solving problems together. I heard you mention like a week of working together, but I think that could be a way forward.
So that's great. Before you answer, let me just get some more feedback here. So like a pizza and beer night, you get to go out and hang out and dance and something like that.
So I'm an investor, I spoke earlier. And I just want to say one thing to all the entrepreneurs as well is part of my practice as an investor and venture capitalist is to get to know the corporations. I think it's a very, very good way, not only as an investor, to have a very good relationship with these folks because, you know, eventually they're going to potentially, as we all talked about, be an acquirer potentially of somebody in my portfolio.
My portfolio.
Exactly. Any portfolio. So having an early relationship and also, as I mentioned earlier, the corporate venturing arms, those are guys that I work with because sometimes they might want to be a co-investor alongside me in my investment. And the relationship that we've seen through some of our portfolio companies through to corporates has been fantastic, actually. They're big, but you know, if you find the right person, as these folks I'm sure will help you do, then you'll be in the right hands.
Great. So a few more ideas. Don't answer anything yet. We got 10 minutes. So a few more ideas of how you're helping to build trust and with them. So quick one.
Well, pizza and beer is fine. I like the idea about the problem, like be open with which big problems do we need to solve in the world and give out prizes for them. I think like set some money, you know. Like for example, I heard that some of the life tech companies, they said that there is like to invent some kind of a pill that triggers off in a specific moment, you know, that specific time. That's a big problem. Those kind of problems, like how do we solve them?
Okay, great. A couple more ideas. I got two more over there and one more over here.
Thank you. Hi. As I said, I work for research institutes, and we also spin out a lot of companies. So we spin out maybe 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 companies every year. And I would like to invite you for lunch to meet these companies and talk to them and see if there is mutual there's a mutual fit. And if you're interested, an invitation will come in your email or whatever.
All right, so we got pizza and beer, dance, invitation to lunch, a prize, an X prize or something.
I have a better solution or proposal. Come to Impact Hub. This is the co-working and entrepreneurial space for social startups. And we organize the open workshops together with startups and large corporations around lean startup and design thinking methods. So it's very effective, very efficient, and you just get to know what startups are there, what they do, and what you can do together.
Yep. Pirko Thompson for University. We invite companies, small and big ones, to our AIM Day. And there, you as a company, you come with your question, and we put together a meeting for 1 hour with the researchers to discuss that.
Great. All right. Oh, of course. One more.
Hi, I'm Peter Fosso. I run a group called StockholmEntrepreneurs.se. So we educate entrepreneurs and startups and do all these events. And I assume you guys already know that you can sponsor the various startup events and basically connect with the entrepreneurs. And I think it's good that we can learn more about you, and you can learn more about us and our startups. And I think that's all I needed to say.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. We got 5 minutes-ish. How would you like to respond to what they're proposing as a way of building trust with you and a relationship? Anybody?
It has to be a long-term relationship. So it's not a one-time off. I think it's something trust is something you gain over some time. So a lunch and then hopefully followed by a sort of actual meeting with that company or sort of doing some real stuff together. I think we need to be more open and approachable, and we're doing our best efforts to do that. With the ideas we've thought here, but it's sort of a long-term effort.
Good.
Yeah.
Peter?
Yeah, you are most welcome to have lunch with me or visit us in Västerås. And I think also it's about starting to build a relation also, and this trust. It will take some time. ABB, I mean, we are making a culture change also, so it takes some time. But I'm sure we will have some cooperation with some of you in some time. I look forward to that.
I really liked all the ideas, and especially focusing on the topic and the lunch and beer and pizza. So that would be really nice. And then also, I think it's very important what Lotta mentioned is that long-term relationship, or at least the next step. So I really would like to have a tangible next step. So if we meet, it's really understand that what is the next step and then how we are going to some kind of value creation mode. Just to have social and get to know each other and then have a good friendship and then we agree that we are for the same cause. That's okay, as you said. Get social, that's okay. But we really don't have time. So believe it or not, these big corporations, we don't have time because you are fast. Entrepreneurs are extremely fast, so we have to get that pace as well. So I think it's very, very important that beside getting social on a certain topic, we really understand what is our next step.
That's wonderful. Just if I can just kind of wrap this up a little bit. So I love what I'm hearing from the corporations on the stage here. I love what I'm hearing from the other folks that I've met in these other conferences. They're being a lot more open and reaching out. And at the same time, again, I'm going to go back to the word of expectation. They've already said it many times. You move fast. They have a process, and they also have responsibilities, fiduciary responsibilities to a larger entity, and there's a process by which they must go through. I don't know of any one of my portfolio companies that approaches a corporation with the expectation that even within a year, there's going to be any sort of tangible thing that happens. They actually keep the relationship open. They communicate with each other to keep informed about progress and about milestones. And the inevitable opportunity is at some point, if it's 18 months, 24 months, 36 months later, there may be an opportunity where the progress has reached a point where there is a next step. but I don't know of anyone that approaches corporations with the expectation that tomorrow something is going to happen. So keep that managing of expectations in mind, but these are real human beings, just like investors are human beings, you're a human being. And everyone has responsibilities and a process by which they work. So learn what the process is, understand the core business. I know you're wonderful about educating, but I don't think it's the responsibility of the corporations or the investors to educate you on everything that we do. There's no secret here. You can go to the website. You can listen to them probably on YouTube or on this video session. You can learn as much as you possibly can, and then come to the table a lot more articulate about what it is specifically that they're looking for. So again, we have a break session now coming up, and then we have some additional discussion. I hope you'll take this opportunity to get to know them, exchange business cards, exchange cards with each other, and keep building on this possibility. So thank you for being here, and thank you to the speakers also.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah.
So, welcome back, and we're getting into the final stretch of this forum, and I would like to ask up on stage two people that are sitting over there. It's Faz Bashi, you all have met before today, and Staffan Helgesson, who is one of the co-founders and partners at Crandom, one of the VCs, prestigious VCs here in Stockholm, Sweden.
Let's do one corner. Yeah, one corner. Okay.
And I'll sit in the middle then.
Yeah, there you go.
So if you start fighting, I'll be in trouble.
You'll be in. Very good.
So we coined this discussion because we're going to touch upon that and many other things about sort of entrepreneur-friendly angels and VCs, if they do exist, or if they're sort of, as sometimes one says sort of the vulture capitalist rather than the venture capitalist, and angels without wings or black angels, whatever. So we're going to touch upon that. But first, just everybody has seen you before today, but Staffan, give us 1 minute sort of on Crandom. And why would an entrepreneur sitting here in the room, why would they choose Crandom instead of North Zone?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that there's one thing that probably is a bit unique and special about Crandom is that we think the world's flat. We think the world is flat, and that you actually don't create very successful companies anymore in a country or in a region. We think that you have to win a category globally. And to do that, we have since 4 or 5 years back set up an office in the U.S. It used to be in Palo Alto, interesting. Moved up to San Francisco this summer. And by that, we do not invest in the U.S., but we actually work as a outsourced business development function for our companies. Because to win globally, you need to win in the US, and you need to be a winner globally, because number 1 and number 2 in every category takes 90% plus of the value created.
So you said you were in the Silicon Valley with the companies. Is there any other VC, Swedish VC, that has done the same thing as you have done?
I don't think so. If we look across Europe and we invest across Europe, it's probably only Index that also have people in the same fund that are located in the Bay Area. And I think the same fund is important because that means that they have incentives to help your company. You might be part of the same family, right? So a VC has a fund in Europe, but they have another fund in the US. And frankly, those people are not incentivized to help the European companies.
So is there a problem? Why don't you have a global fund there where you can use, is that through tax reasons or technical reason? Why? I mean, how is it to do a global fund?
So technically, we could actually invest on Mars. Now, we wouldn't do that, right? But
you and Elon, you would be in good company.
Exactly. No, but there's this thing we call negative selection, which means that if we invest very far away from our home base, how do we know that we don't invest in the companies that the local guys in that region have already turned down? That's negative selection. Because venture is about getting access to that top 0.5%.
All you gotta do is
companies.
ask.
Yeah, exactly. But we don't know everyone, right?
And you will send in the bad stuff, right?
We'll talk. Yeah, easiest form of diligence. All right, hey, what's up, Steph? Yeah.
So coming to this entrepreneur, because you and I have talked about that, and you talked about that in many instances, coming to sort of entrepreneur and angels and VCs, what do you think consists of, how do the entrepreneurs out in the audience make certain they don't get screwed, literally, by an investor?
Depends on what you're looking for. How do they make sure? Well, look, I'm repeating myself over and over again, but I hope everyone realizes when you hear these condensed bites, sound bites, I'm really trying to take all the experience. We're all trying to take all of our experience, put it into one bullet point and help you. So relationship, friendship, and trust. So if you don't have a network yet and you're trying to build a business, now you're building a business and then trying to create a network. Build your network, build a business. So reach out to people, ask. I do some healthcare consulting. I work with clinics and community health centers and hospitals across the country. And I always talk to the physicians first. And I always say, what are the 5 most important words in life? And they always go, I don't know. And remember, physicians are used to doing a lot of things. They're entrepreneurial somewhat, and they're trying to do their own thing and solve problems. 5 most important words in life are, can you please help me? And it's really kind of a hard thing to say because you're going, well, I got to figure this out on my own. But I just said, he knows it too. The easiest form of diligence is pick up the phone, call your friend and say, hey, Claire, I'm looking at a deal here. What do you think? Oh, and then connect him to another person, connect to another person. So there's no such thing as an overnight success. There's no such thing as an individual who has made an impact on their own. It's all a team effort, but there's a lot of silent people behind the team. So I would say you reach out to your network and find out, is the firm really good? Are the angels really good? Is the lawyer there really good? Ask, and then you will get some answers.
So what you're saying is that if you are an entrepreneur looking for venture capital, you should talk with the companies that firm or angel had been investing in for. So
we're going to interview you. Why don't you interview others who've... And in fact, I'd prefer that I've interviewed 5 different angel groups and I found out about you, right, Stefan?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everyone should take references on each other, right? Because it's as big of a decision for the entrepreneur to pick the VC as it is for the VC to pick the
maybe even bigger.
Yeah, it might even be bigger. I mean, the way we view the world is that, the best entrepreneurs actually choose their investor and not vice versa. It's not always the case, but I think if that's the mindset that you have as an investor, you will provide a better service to entrepreneurs, and if you do that, you will win long term.
So, I mean, I know you're on the sort of the investment side, but what would be the advice for if you're an inexperienced entrepreneur, first time looking for investment, to be careful about when you approach, not you two guys, of course, but your peers? Because you hear stories sometimes, I won't mention any, but where entrepreneurs really get the bad deal.
So there's probably a lot of aspects here. If you as an entrepreneur deal with people that have been around the block, I don't think that you will get screwed, so to say, because this is such a long-term game that a reputable investor, whether you're an angel or a VC, you simply cannot afford to in any way demolish your reputation. But for safety's sake, I would make sure that you take references, just like we heard here, talk to other people that this firm or angel has invested in, and make sure there's competition, right? That's the best way to get a fair and square deal that is on the right valuation with the right terms, etc., etc. But don't overreach on valuation. I think that's critical because
I agree. Yeah.
It's like climbing a rock, right? If you overstretch, you will not, as a company, be able to live up to those expectations, and then the next round will not happen at a higher valuation. And then everyone around the table feels screwed.
What do you want to
I
add?
agree. No, I don't have to repeat anything. You're absolutely right.
Okay. Well, of course, we also want to open up for because I think after the 2 parallel sessions, you're all in sort of discussion mode. So, and we want to continue that. So just feel free and raise your hand. There are microphones out there, so you can ask your question or comment. So we make this also more interactive because there's a lot of knowledge out here in the audience. So yes, we have one up here. So where's the microphone? Here, up here, just in the front. Thank you. Please say who you are.
Yeah, my name is Robert. I'm an investor and entrepreneur. And I'm just started to be an investor because of the business has been quite good. And I feel it's extremely difficult to discern what is a valuable company or a valuable business idea. That's why I'm interested in hearing your opinion. How can you know that it's a unicorn or not, right? I guess you said that you can't, Fas, right? Because it's not possible. Maybe you have to invest in 10 companies and then hope for 1 or 2 or 3 that will become successful. But it's interesting to hear from you experienced professionals. How do you think here?
Stefan, you want to take it?
You want to start?
Yeah. So first of all, you don't. When you meet a company, you have no clue. But I think there's a couple of guidelines. One is, I think you definitely need to think portfolio because, if you only make 1 or 2 or 3 investments, the likelihood of you, getting a winner in there is just too small. So as an angel, you probably need to do 10 plus. As a VC, I know there are statistics that says you should have at least 15 portfolio companies in your portfolio, because then you get rid of 80% of the risks that you can diversify away from. Having said that, if you only get to pick from the top 95% of deals, you will not make money, right? You will not make money. You need to pick preferably the top 1% or definitely at the top of the stack. So how do you do that? Well, you make sure that you are someone that entrepreneurs want to speak to, and you can do that in many different ways. But you also make sure that you do deals together with others. Because if you're the only one that likes this little company, I think it's a very high chance that it's not a good thing to invest in, because frankly, then probably more people, if everyone wants to invest, might not be a good investment either, right? Because then it's too mainstream. So take, I think a great example is Spotify. So we led the A round in 2008. We talked to them since January 2007. The graveyard was full of music startups at the time. You had hundreds of companies across Europe that had tried to break into that sector. So probably 90% of investors didn't want to touch it because they looked at the future by looking into the rearview mirror, right? So it's a mix between not being alone and not having everyone with you either. I'm sure you can.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So ultimately, this is a relationship business. You'll reap what you sow. If people don't know you as an investor yet, you really should make yourself known and tell people what you're looking for, and also tell people what value you add to, because there's lots of investors out there. So you will reap what you sow in what you give back. So you heard earlier, majority of entrepreneurs aren't necessarily looking for money, although that's what they're told they should be doing. They're looking for feedback and guidance. So if you have a network, and I don't mean, again, a machine that makes money off of entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are looking for a source of money. But if you have a method by which you can help entrepreneurs move through a process where they can grow and they add value to themselves because of you, and you can invest in that and see the progress, that's a great way of just, again, getting yourself known, being connected to a company that's making progress, and then bringing other value-added folks into the picture. But I agree. I mean, so there's a portfolio approach. There's a lot of stuff written on it. I'm part of the board of directors of Angel Capital Association. You can go to our website. It's a nonprofit organization, trade organization representing angels. There are best practices out there. At the end of the day, though, it's personal. It's about your brand if you're alone. But if you're part of a group, I'm not a lone wolf. I need to be part of a team because I'm not that smart. I need to have other people who know what they're doing in IP and corporate and other things, but I have my areas where I add expertise. So I would urge you to think more collectively about what looks good and then make a portfolio approach.
And just to add one thing, you invest in people, not ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Or technology, for that sake. You invest in people, at least on the tech side. Life science may be slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Mats Bergqvist. I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a venture capitalist, and I worked with you, Staffan, at McKinsey some years ago. I would like you to touch a little bit more about the real home runs, the sort of company that happens once every second or third year, which really was successful, and think about why were they such a very, very successful home run for you as an investor? That's a good question, I think. You touch a little bit. I would like you to go a little bit deeper on one or two examples, each one of them, please.
Since we're in Sweden, I defer to you.
Yeah, that's obviously the billion-dollar question, right? But I think if you look, so first of all, if you look back at the Nordics, at least up until a couple of years ago, there was a history where the Nordics created a billion-dollar plus company pretty much every year. And I don't think the valuation is the important thing, but they did build something that became significant. And you know, what are the commonalities in those companies? Well, I think that It's probably a number of things, but they were phenomenal individuals. So I often hear that different people are right for different stages. Sure, but not when it comes to building a startup, right? You need a Daniel Ek who can take it from the living room to Nasdaq, right? You need a Sebastian Szymatkowski at Klarna, Sebastian Knutsson at King, etc. Right? You need those individuals. I think that's number one. You obviously need a big market, but again, going back to the music market, frankly, wasn't that big. So the size of groceries in Sweden, we've also invested in Lenas Matkasse, is the same size as music globally. So music, frankly, is not that big of a market. But if you have a very disruptive business model, so in Spotify's case, you went from buying to renting, right? Instead of download and buy the individual song, you would pay for the access, which is basically renting a lot of different songs. So that's three things. Then you also need, medvind, tailwind, right? Instead of headwind. It needs to be the right time. Again, I think that the music industry, they were looking for solutions. They were only making money in one market globally. That was the U.S. Had Spotify started in the U.S., they would have failed because the labels, I think, would never have agreed to them starting a free service where you give away everything and then eventually you pay. It wouldn't happen. But they started in Sweden, right? The home of Pirate Bay. And Per Sundin and a couple of others, Per Sundin at Universal, thought, hey, what the heck? It's a small market. Let them try. The market's destroyed by Pirate Bay anyway. And it worked, right? And I think the same thing goes for, I think King is the same thing. I think Klarna, same thing. Klarna's interesting. So they had an invoicing product originally, right? Buy something online, pay with invoice 30 days later. I discarded that big time because I thought, come on, credit cards, online, PayPal, that has to be the way to pay and not invoices. What I missed was the simple fact that people want to touch the product first, check it, and pay later. That's what invoicing is about, right? It's not the paper invoice. So we had to look at that at a much later stage. So they were disrupting the market in a different way. And Handelsbanken had the exact same product. They even recruited the head of this product from Handelsbanken, right? So timing, tailwind, a couple of other factors.
I'm just an angel, so...
No home runs?
No, I don't even count on home runs. I don't know what that is. So in the baseball analogy, I prefer base hits. I prefer to get to first base, load up the bases, and just keep hitting base hits, if we're going to use baseball as the analogy. So I'll give you one quick example. I got a 5.3x in 10 months. And it was through a coachable set of entrepreneurs who had very innovative genomic technology, doing sequencing much faster. They were very coachable. They wanted to work with us. They chose us. We got involved in their business. So one of our guys from our group became the chairman of the board, opened up a bunch of doors. We succeeded on every single customer contact point, and we never fulfilled the invoicing. We just gave them the invoice, here's $40,000, and we walked on because we knew we were building this company for an acquisition. So I would prefer base hits all day long, and I would prefer to work with entrepreneurs who have that same mentality. We have to support our companies internally. So when we look at deals, we know that the early stage VC guys in our neck of the woods are not doing early stage deals anymore. So essentially our approach is we have to look at how do we support a deal from beginning to almost the end. And I'm not saying it's impossible. There are still friendly capitalists, which is what we're talking about. There are still friendly capitalists out there, but it's special situations.
Yes, we have one question over there. While you're waiting for the microphone, what's the best X you have in one single investment?
Oh, thank you.
between 60 and 70, I think. But one has to remember, it's a different ball game, angel investing and venture capital investing as a firm, because then you manage institutional capital and you manage large absolute numbers of capital. So you want and you need to invest a different amount, right? So you can actually live with lower multiples as long as it's a larger absolute amount. So it's not really the same thing.
So a lot of folks don't know that most angel groups, at least in the U.S., because of this risk associated with early stage venture capital not being available, we have shifted from a 20% IRR to a 30% IRR. So we need to see 30x. We need to see it as an expectation. We don't get it, but that's really kind of the formula. So if you can work your math, then you're good. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Please introduce yourself.
Of course. I'm Adam Edström. I work with Acreo, Swedish ICT, a research organization. My question is, my impression is that the investment community sort of runs in packs, or that there is a fashion element, that this year we invest in media something, next year it's biotech, the year after it's clean tech or green tech. Why is everyone running in the same direction? Why are you not trying to find the good companies rather than running in the same direction?
I'm just an angel. So
I know.
I don't have anything other than my group.
You've gotten away with that excuse a number of times now.
We don't control social media. We don't control all the things that you read in the newspapers and other things. We actually go out there and do a lot of things which is geared towards one-to-one or one-to-many interactions, but not one to millions of folks. So I will travel. I'm here. I go all over the country to find new opportunities. So we actually, as angel groups, and remember, we're focused: medical device, biotech, pharma, and digital health. That's it. We don't do furniture. We don't do vodka. We don't do anything else. That's it, right? So we have a strict focus, and there are no real trends in terms of what we do, except we're trying to find good opportunities that we can support. The venture community is different. Remember, they have fiduciary responsibility. I'm speaking for you, but they have fiduciary responsibilities to other people's money, right? So they have also given a mission statement that they're going to return X amount of capital at a certain time period, usually 10 years. And so they have to find the areas where they can either have a lead investment, and sometimes that means going to the cutting edge of something that hasn't been done before, or finding something that they think is going to be the winner in a certain category. And Stefan, you can speak for yourself now.
Thank you. So you're probably right to some degree, but I think it's a bit more complex than that. So, for example, some things happen fundamentally at the same time, and they give birth to new, let's call them trends. So let's take the iPhone. That was the birth of mobile internet, right? And it happened in 2007, and obviously you had a first wave of mobile investments, the 18, 24, 36 months, whatever, after that, right? So was that investor-driven? Was it event-driven? Or was it entrepreneur-driven? Well, hard to say, right? But it happened.
Yeah, or was it fear of missing out?
So there's absolutely a fear of missing out. However, if you look at how investment track records look like, you will see that it's a really bad idea to invest in number 3, 4, or 5 on a market. So I think the trick is rather to have really large ears like me, put them on the track, right? To try to be the first ones that hear the train coming. You will not be able, as an investor, to identify the next new thing. Because if you are, you should be the entrepreneur, right? But you need to have, 2 ears and listen carefully. Another thing that has happened is a blockchain, right? So that happened. And then 18, 24 months after, you had this wave of companies. Is it us? Is it the entrepreneurs? Is it the event? I don't know. But it's complex, right? Was that answer to your...
It was indeed. Thank you.
What is clear is that hardware, that's a tough area and has been for a long, long time. I think you've all heard that software eats the world. It's a lot of truth in that expression, so to say.
There'll only be one hardware, this one. everything else will be gone?
No, I think there will be many different hardwares and platforms, but we come from a hardware-centric environment. Europe and even more so perhaps us, we're very hardware-oriented. But software, that's where the solution is. So take an example. I'm part of something called Framtidens Stad at IVA, the Royal Engineering, right? We're 20 people, and 19 of us want to solve it with hardware. Let's build more, let's put pipes here and there. And I think software, so deregulation, self-driving cars, having Uber on the streets instead of everyone having their own cars, stuff like that. That is software.
So your question was really good. You're trying to probe into the mind of the investors. I would urge you to not just listen to what you're hearing here. Read multiple sources of information. Find some really good books that have been written on the subject. There's a lot of things out there. There's no secret to any of this. I mean, we're not the world's brightest minds, even though some of us think we are. We're not. I mean, we're just regular people. So are the venture capitalists. They're not superstars. There's a lot written on the subject, and there is a method by which everyone, those who are serious about their investments, there's a process by which we all work, and we're all looking for 1 + 1 = 6, and they're all looking for that great team of people who know how to execute. So there's nothing really secret about all of this. And where we make the investments, sometimes it's just fortuitous. The person who walked into our door and we made that investment, that was a mentoring session that we had. We had a mentoring session where these two entrepreneurs walked in. They hadn't even C-Corp'd themselves yet. So as Stefan said, keep your ears and your eyes wide open, and all of a sudden you'll see that somebody walks in the door that has something that looks really, really valuable. But you can read about all this. It's all in the books. Everything's there. It's basic business principles.
But those investments that in hindsight proved to be really good, you knew after 5 minutes of meeting that team.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good segue into the next session, actually, saying, because now we're going to bring up 3 entrepreneurs on the stage and to have a little talk about the sort of similarities and differences between Sweden and U.S. from the entrepreneur's perspective. So thank you, Staffan. Thank you, Fas. And while they are demicked and the other ones get their mics, I have unfortunately bad news to tell you that the final speaker of the day, I just got a message from Robin Tegland that she had a family matter that she needed to attend to. There's no one at harms, but an accident with one of her kids, but they're okay. So she had to deal with that, which is totally understandable. But we'll try to get her at another time and let you all know. So we invite you to that. So she really sort of texted me and said, well, I'm so sorry, but I have to deal with that. And that's totally understandable. I think that would go for anyone here if something happens in the family. We're just, okay, time to go. So next session, that will be the final session of the day, will be a talk with Johan Attby, the CEO and co-founder of Fishbrain, and also previous life. So we can call you a serial entrepreneur, in short. We have Charlotta Tönsgård, who is the CEO of Min Doktor, and Caroline Valerud, co-founder and executive chairman of Volumental. So please come up here and let's get this. So we can take away the old glasses. If you need some water, you can have new glasses. How about that? So while I'm kind of housekeeping here, so let's start with the 1 minute sort of pitch. What do your company do?
Right. Hi, everyone. My name is Caroline Valerud. I'm here actually with, I suppose, 3 hats, not just one. I'll start with the biggest hat, which is my company. I founded Volumental 4 years ago. I was CEO for 3 years, and now I'm executive chairman there and work there for 2 days a week. And what we do is use 3D scanning and 3D technologies to create custom products and services for, first of all, shoes. So we work with companies like New Balance and Bauer, who make ice skates, and lots of other shoe companies, as well as some eyewear companies, to actually, when you walk into a store, get exact sort of measurements of your feet, which size you should buy, and then help then to actually buy the size that will fit you and the model that will fit you, and help you when shopping online as well to reduce returns. So it's all about sort of abolishing blisters from this world, making sure people have products that really fit them and that they really like, so to reduce waste as well. That's my main hat, and otherwise I'm also investing with my parents in their sort of business angel investment firm. And thirdly, I'm involved in some startup policy work with the government.
So my name is Charlotte Tonsgaard, and I'm the CEO of Min Doctor, and that is Sweden's largest digital caregiver in terms of treating patients treated. We have treated about 30,000 patients today, which says nothing to you. But if you compare us to a traditional caregiver, we would be one of the largest ones in terms of kind of a unit in Sweden. We are working with insurance companies before, where we have about 50% of the market, working with Skandia, Euraccident, and LF. And previously, I've been with different startups within the tech industry. Telecom has been kind of my thing up until now. And I've also spent a brief term on the other side of the table, working with M&As for BlackBerry. And I'm also involved in the startup community, but in Malmö, where Min Doctor is based.
So my name is Johan Atby, and I have a long background as an entrepreneur. So originally I was a PhD student in artificial intelligence. This was way before it was hot. It's hot today, it wasn't 15 years ago. Talking about the cycles. But I dropped out to start my first software company early 2000, grew that in Sweden to begin with, and moved to Silicon Valley in 2006. Continued to grow the company there. Got Microsoft as a customer. Only rational thing after that was to sell the company, which I did. And after that, I moved with family from Silicon Valley to Boston, where I was based for a year. Didn't like being with a big company. I don't have that in my DNA. I don't think I have the corporate gene in my DNA. So I did some angel investing, joined boards, was an advisor to a lot of companies. But I like operations. I like doing stuff. So I decided, hey, I want to do at least one more before I turn venture capitalist. I know it eventually will happen, but I tried to just postpone it. So I looked at a lot of different things, but I have a strong belief that my thesis is that if you have a passion for something, you want to share it with like-minded and not with friends. And the biggest social platforms today are all friends platforms: Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram. So I wanted to build what's called a deep social network. So I wrote an article about this phenomena, and it was published by Sarah at Pandu Daily, which is the biggest Silicon Valley blog. And I got a shitload of feedback from the Silicon Valley investors. I decided, hey, I want to build a deep social network. I know nothing about fishing, but there was an article in Forbes listing the world's 10 biggest hobbies. Number one was sport fishing. So I looked into the market and decided to build a deep social network for sport fishing, which is FishBrain. And I'm a co-founder and CEO of that company right now. And now we have 2.6 million users, most of them in the States. And that's my background.
Thank you. So we talked a little bit before we met here today that I want you to talk about, because all of you have experiences of bringing in capital, working with capital both in Sweden and the US. So what are the similarities and the differences that one as an entrepreneur should be aware of when it comes to talking with the investors here or there? What are the strengths and weaknesses in the two countries? Who wants to go first?
I think it really depends on which stage you're in. And also if you're B2B or B2C, because I've definitely seen it firsthand that in the States they take more high risk. And if you look at the most successful B2C companies, they raised a ton of money, and they raised most of that money in the States. But when I left Sweden in 2006, because back then it was almost impossible to raise bigger rounds in Sweden, that's changing now. Super positive. You have the Staffan at Crandom that just raised a bigger fund. Our main investor is Northzone. They just announced a large fund. You have EQT Ventures. So you see the local guys can actually write bigger checks, which is super positive. I still think they take bigger risk in the States than here. I think that has to change. But I've seen definitely steps in very positive direction. But it's still a very hard as we're based in Stockholm. We don't have a local team in the States yet. It's really hard to raise capital from the States while being here. When you set up your shop over there, you can do it. But it's really hard to do it before. I got to know recently from Andreessen Horowitz. This is not on. You're not recording this, right?
We are.
Maybe you are. So, but it's one of the main reason was that we cannot invest in you before we actually have a team there. It's one of the reasons they came back with. Even though they love, Mark Andreessen tweeted about the opportunity in sport fishing. They love the vertical. But it's really hard for them to invest. They can invest, but it's a later stage. When they invested in Klarna or in some other companies, they were at a much later stage. So it's still very hard to get one of those Silicon Valley-based investors early on in the history.
Yeah, I agree completely with you, Juan. The one hack you can do if you really want an American investor is what my company did. So Volumental, we raised $3 million 2 years ago now. And one of the investors was Sweden-based, the other one was Silicon Valley-based. But they're called founder.org, and their focus is specifically tying top tech universities around the world to them and investing in startups based out of those universities. But we were in Silicon Valley pitching also, and it just as you say, Johan, it was hard. They said, well, we'd really like you to have a local team here. Once you have a plan for that, come back. So I would say that is a big issue. And then the one thing where you could also say then was the American investors generally give higher valuations. So it can be good to have one of those in the mix in the sort of bidding game of getting a VC and join.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think one of the ways to get an investor from the US on board is definitely to go through some kind of partnership.
Yeah.
I think there are very few of them that would invest in a Swedish company that they don't have any connection to the US.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've seen a lot of companies going over to the US pitching. I've been there too. And I would say I haven't heard none who has actually succeeded on a larger scale with it. But finding a partner, that's something that I've seen in a couple of examples. But I do agree. I mean, for this first more intensive rounds, you need to find something at home. And then it's really great to see that we are seeing some larger funds also in the Nordics. I think that is really important.
Well, I guess the main thing is that an investor doesn't just want to be down money. They would rather actually be able to give some value to the startup. Yeah. So if you're 9 time zones away, it's pretty hard to actually give that value. So maybe then if you find an investor who, for some reason, it's very strategic to have that specific one for some other reason than the geography, then it might work. And I would say that when we're looking now for our next round, there are definitely examples of that because of sort of the retail innovation focus, for example.
So they also want to be able to knock on your door unexpectedly, see that you're actually doing something, not just sending nice reports.
Well, I don't know. It's more about trying to help out.
Yeah,
I think.
I agree.
It's not like trying to spy on us or anything. At least not in our case. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's not different from the US than from Sweden. That most investors that go into E rounds, they want to be they come with something,
right?
And in order to have use from that, you need to be able to meet.
Yeah.
But in your experience from meeting with investors, angels, and VCs here or in the US, are there different questions they ask? Are there different things they look at when they do their due diligence or not?
My main one, I think, is that the American investors had very good questions about what have you learned? Where did you start? Where are you now? And how has that changed? In Sweden, it was maybe, and Europe in general, I think, a little bit less of that, sort of the process and more about where are you today.
Yeah, I definitely agree. In the US, much more about the road and as you say, what kind of mistakes did you do?
Yeah.
How did you learn from them? In Nordic or Sweden, it's a little bit more focused on achievements.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, in Sweden, I think have been broached upon many times. We are a bit more humbled, so we weren't that good at selling ourselves. Yeah. And I think that has definitely been, for many entrepreneurs, I think is a culture shock when you go to the US. And also something, if you look on the opposite, when I worked for BlackBerry, that is Canadian, you could tell that the team wasn't used to hearing people saying what they actually are kind of exposing the risks and wanting to discuss that. So at first they were not really prepared to even take in that and take that as a positive. So in that I think we need to be aware of.
You want to add something?
Yeah, for us it's really because we are essentially building a social network, and almost all successful social networks have been built out of the Bay Area. And these guys, come on, they know their metrics. Many of them have been with Chamath is running social capital He was running growth for Facebook. He knows really, okay, do you know what are the KPIs? They know, they're into the weeds. If you're speaking with Nordson or Crandom or the guys over here, they know it, but at a superficial level. They're really into the weeds. So they really know how to really find the tricky questions, but they're also very good at it because you can have a discussion. So in most of my meetings with them over there, you learn a lot of them.
Yeah.
So it's also a learning experience. So for us, I'm not doing it just because it's fun, but also actually to learn something about it, which is very different. But I think in some segments, we're getting there. I think a really good experiment. I think you have EQT as an investor. Yeah. I think that's a really exciting experiment because they're really setting up. They view themselves as a service provider and having a much bigger team, bigger organization. They're hiring brilliant people, hiring people out of King. They're hiring people out of Spotify that know certain areas, growth, marketing, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And they actually want to take that and those resources to help the companies, which is Andreessen Horowitz, which was one of the first in the Silicon Valley to do this. Sequoia, they're not that involved. Or Greylock, they're not that involved. But Andreessen is. So they view themselves as a service provider. My question is, though, are there enough companies in Stockholm or in Scandinavia to support such a model? I think the future will tell.
Maybe EQT can go and start their own startups in the extra time.
Yeah, probably. And I think their focus is not only on the Nordic, though. Yeah. They're looking in Europe, generally speaking. But yeah, that's definitely kind of a new breed, at least in the Nordic. And it's been, at least for Mindoctor, it's been great having them on board.
So they actually bring more to the table.
Yeah, I mean, they have expertise. More, yeah. They have the head guy of data and analytics from Spotify is part of the team. So of course, as for Mindoctor, when we are kind of trying out mixing being a caregiver with being a digital service provider, of course, that is a huge benefit to be able to sit down with him and talk about the experiences and finding the key metrics and doing that in a kind of discussion, not an owner company, but having actually a discussion with them. So I mean, yeah.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
So, want to open up for questions and comments? And we have 3 people here with a lot of experience and a lot of ideas and good network. So up here, yes, one. But wait for the microphone and please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Joseph Lahoud, and I run a company called Target Locked, and I do some small investments here in Sweden. I have a question to you, Juan. Have you started fishing?
I have, actually, yeah. I'm into fly fishing now. But I suck at it. I'm so bad at it. It's unbelievable. If you look at all the catches on Fishbrain and compare it to me, it's embarrassing.
Because it's kind of hard, like going into some area without, knowing the area. So if you didn't fish before, I was like amazed that you got into that area.
I have a different take on that. When I do angel investing on my own, I'm super careful investing in an entrepreneur that's super passionate about something, because then you need to be passionate. Don't get me wrong, but if you're passionate about a specific topic, you can be super biased. You don't really see, you don't look objectively on the area. So it's, but something I did very early on, of course, was to bring on someone with the domain expertise. So the head of product, Jimmy at Fishbrain. He's an avid angler. He's tattoos all over him, and he's a really good angler. So of course it's important to have the domain knowledge within the company, but when it comes to the founders or the founding team, it's yeah.
I'm amazed.
So any other question? Yes, in the front here. Raise your hand. I'll see it.
Okay. Mats Bergqvist again. If all 3 of you would pick one thing, let's say you had the full power to change something in Sweden, the magic stick. What would you like to be changed in Sweden to make it a better environment for entrepreneurs and for cooperation with venture capitalists? Pick your favorite to make Sweden better.
Okay. I would say we need more flexibility. I mean, I listened before on the discussion about policy and what the government can do and so on. But I think if we want to support kind of a new breed of how you work and how you look at employment and changing between companies, I think we need to start preparing for much more flexibility and accommodating different kinds of career paths and things like that. And I think that is one of the areas where Sweden is kind of lagging behind. Our basic structures are still built upon the fact that you should have an employment and it should last for a couple of years, and everything from kind of how you calculate maternity leave to things like that is built around us. So if we want to have a working environment where we have more flexibility and people can change careers and take risks, then we also need to build that flexibility in the system, but of course also in the mindset, that is something that you see as an option and not something to be scared about or having to question, but as an option.
One that's been the most annoying for Volumental is the talent acquisition. So it takes ages to get people into the country. We have to battle the migration board about keeping our greatest employees in the country if they're not from the EU. So I would say making it much easier to hire from outside the EU, and sort of maybe even like a carte blanche for anyone with sort of a master's degree or something in like an area where Sweden really needs people. So for example, coding, I heard something like it's like 100,000 or 200,000 coders missing in Sweden. So let's just bring 200,000 then.
I'll second that.
Yeah, so that's my main one.
You have to add something new.
Yeah, definitely. It's easy. It's taxation of stock options. That's the number one for me, because there is no way. I can never compete with salary. Daniel at Spotify or Sebastian at King or Sebastian at Klarna. They can get 20, 30, 50, 40, 50,000 SEK per month more if they work for those companies. Yeah. And you don't want to have the people working for, because of the salary, they should really have an ownership in the company. We see it adds a lot of value if they have some skin in the game. So there's a big upside. But it's so darn hard in Sweden to actually make that work because of the taxation of stock options. That has to change. Yeah. That's such a huge advantage in the States compared to Sweden. That has to change. Yeah.
So my final question to you would be, so we end here on time, is that if you would give from your experience and the mistakes you've done and the successes you've done, what would be the most important advice you would give someone that will come to you and say, well, I'm working on this company, I'm starting this, sort of, what would be the prime advice you will give them
I guess
to help them?
I can start. The first one I would say is just asking for help. But this person is already coming to me and asking for help, so they've solved that one.
So I have to do another one.
So I get another one, yes. And the second one would be to be close, really be very close to your customers, like really understand deeply what they need, and always go back and try to verify and understand and make sure you have customers, whether businesses or individuals, who really love your product.
Yeah, and I would add to that I mean, you almost never regret letting go of the railing. So when you do see that opportunity, even though you don't know exactly how you will end up where you want to be or exactly how to get there, then just kind of let go and go with the flow. Yeah.
For me, it's all about finding a huge market. I hate small markets, because then I really do, because that means I'm not saying that you cannot make money if you go after a small market, but then you have to have perfect execution, and that's really hard. If you go after a huge market, huge global market, even if you screw it up a little bit, even if you only get 1% market penetration, you can still make a lot of money. So finding a huge market and then focus. I see most of the entrepreneurs I meet, they say, I want to do this, I want to do that. They have a ton of things they want to do. It's much better these days. It's super competitive. All markets are very competitive. So you have to pick few things you do and do them exceptionally well. You have to, if you're a B2C, but it's also the same for B2B. Yeah. You have to make a product today that users love. Like is not good enough these days, because you only talk about things that you love. You never talk about the things you like. I had a good lunch today. You talk about, I had a great lunch. I went to UX and I had a fantastic lunch. You talk about that. And that is how you get true word of mouth, both in B2B, but also B2C. So huge market and super focused. Do a few things, but do them exceptionally well.
Well, thank you. We'll just sit where we are. So it's time to, we'll try to, well, good, it's 15 after, so I'll do 1 minute just to close. So very thank you much. Well, let's give them a great hand of applause for their insights.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming and spending the day with us here today and exploring more opportunities to work between Sweden and the US. After we finish in here, because the later we come in what my closing remarks here, the less you will listen. So I'll take the most important first. That is that we have a mingle outside, so please continue to mingle and create new networks. I have one question. I hope everybody, as we start off this morning, when I said that you at least met 5 new people here today that you didn't know before, because otherwise you failed, okay? And finally, I would like to thank, well, 2 finalists. One, to thank you all the speakers that have been around all day. Very much appreciated your insights and your comments and your dedication to this. And finally, I want to thank you, the great team that I have at Esprit. I don't know if everybody's in here in the room. I have Marie here, Åsa, Jelena, and Mia, and Hanna, and you had Helene out there, and Björn. Without them, this would not happen. I'm just running around doing strange things. So they are the ones that actually make this happen. So I'm grateful to them, and I hope you are so too. And let's give them an applause. So thank you for coming, and have a wonderful week, the rest of the week, and make progress and money. One announcement: if you're missing a phone,